Hey everyone, I'm back with another gameplay video for Domain Zoo. To start off with the deck tech, it's the same deck that I've been running for the past few weeks now. I'm up to 22 lands, so we've got the two triomes are the Savai and Zagoth triome. The extra land has really helped to reduce the number of mulligans due to one-landers, so it's been worth it for me. And then the rest has been pretty much the same. We've got two Tremoka's Command in the main, and then on the sideboard I've got the usual cards. Instead of Natural State, I've got a Wear Tear, and that's because of the mirror matchup. So this is going to be a gameplay video, but it's going to be not a full league, it's just one match, and I really want to focus on the mirror match. So this has been one sideboard adjustment some of us have made in the past few weeks, and it's just because the Domain Zoo mirror is becoming much more common. Now, if you play in a league, if you play in a challenge online, or you play in paper events like an RCQ, or a store championship, it's now much more likely that there's going to be at least one other zoo player. So that means you need to be prepared for the mirror match. And Wear Tear is just better in the mirror match because it's 1 mana to destroy a Leyline Binding or 2 mana to kill a Scion, which is very relevant. I've also got Prismatic Ending in here, and that's just helpful in it's just some more removal, which can be helpful in the draw, and it's still helpful against the decks where you really need that 1 mana destroy target artifact. Things like Amulet Titan, for example, or even Hammer Time Prismatic Ending can be good. And I've got the rest of the sideboard's been pretty much the same. Okay, so going towards, looking at the gameplay video. Let me find the match. So this is just one match, but I'll just show you how I approach the mirror match, because it's something that you're going to start running into a lot more if you're playing this deck. So we'll just start out. I do win the die roll, which is good. Let me see if I can. Sorry. Okay, I win the die roll. Obviously, I don't know this is the mirror match going in, so but I do see Gigantha. So at that point, if you see Gigantha, it could be Death Shadow, it could be like Artifact Affinity, or it could be Zoo. I would say right now on MTGO, it's very likely that it's Zoo, but it could also be Death Shadow. So I'm not going to make any decisions based on just seeing that. I just am kind of keeping an eye on it to see what the matchup might be. Looking at my hand, this hand's pretty good. I've got some interaction. I've got a couple threats, so I'm going to keep this hand. And then we'll get started here. Okay, I don't really have a turn 1 play, so I'm going to just play a fetch land. He plays Flooded Strand, it is Sacred Founder. So now I know, he's going to play a Ragavan here, so I know he's on Zoo. So I'm going to just fetch a Triome here. Now, looking at my hand, right, this turn I have a couple options. I could play one of my threats. I could play a Kavu, I could play a Scion, or I could play Leyline Binding to kill the Ragavan. So what I go for here is, in the mirror match especially, I don't want to play these like big 2-drops without some kind of protection. In this case, I only have 2 of them. I only have 2 threats, and I do actually have Stubby D in hand, so I have some options to protect them. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just... so at the end of last turn, I fetched a Triome with white. Well, actually both are... Yeah, I fetched Savai Triome because I wanted Binding, because I wanted to be able to fetch a tap land here, and then Binding for 1 mana on the Ragavan. The other thing that's important in the mirror match is life total. So normally, in a lot of matchups, we don't care as much about, like, okay, I'll fetch and shock a lot, but it can be important in the mirror because, Tribal Flames, Bolt, like very big aggressive creatures that you kind of do want to keep an eye on your life total if you can. In this case, I'm on the play, so it's a little easier for me to do that. On the draw, it's harder, and you'll probably have to shock more. But here, I'm going to go, I'm just going to Binding the Ragavan. And now we'll see what he plays next turn. The other reason I binded the Ragavan is I just don't want him to have removal for one of these creatures. I know he likely will either have Tribal Flames or Binding, and then he can just swing in with Ragavan, and then he starts getting the mana advantage with Ragavan, so then that's not a good position to be in either. So that's why I just dealt with him right away. And then he plays a turn 2 threat Kavu. Okay, I draw Tribal Flames. So here, obviously, I had the option to play a threat with Stubby D up, but there's a chance that, I know he's probably got some removal in hand. So if I just play a Kavu, he could have something like turn 3 Scion, and then I'm not in a good position because then he's got a 5/5 first strike trampler that I can't block, so then I'm just like taking huge hits. And I also don't want to risk him having Stubby D up. So he was tapped out there with Kavu, so I drew Tribal Flames, so I decided I'm just going to Tribal Flames, and I'm going to take it slow. So I'm trying to deal with his creatures early with the hand I had, and then I'm being patient to put out my threats with some protection. So I just go with kill Kavu. He's got a third threat in Brawler. I'm going to just fetch tap land here, again, preserving my life total. Okay, I draw Nakata, which is a good draw. Play Kavu, fetch a basic, again, life total. And now I've got 2 threats on the board. Now I'm in a pretty good position. Obviously, he probably has some removal in hand, but I still have Stubby D up. And then I draw Dramokas, which is very good in this matchup. So I counter his Bolt. He tries to kill Nakata, and now, I'm dealing 9, and he's got nothing on board. So he's down to 5. He finally hits his third land drop. Shocks. Bolts. And then I think Binding, so he wipes the board of my creatures. I still have another threat in hand, so it's not the end of the world. And I actually top deck, another threat, so that's very good. So now I can just throw 2 threats down. He probably doesn't have 2 pieces of removal left as his last, 2 cards in hand. So he played a tap land and then concedes. So that's how I played this first game. Again, I decided to be patient, use my removal early, and then run my threats out later with some protection. Okay, moving on to game 2. This time I'm on the draw. Okay, this is a pretty good hand. I've got a couple Kavus. I've got that early interaction to kill his early threats. Got Tribal Plains. This is a good hand, especially for this matchup. So he goes Flooded Strand into Ragavan. So now I'm just gonna I have to fetch and shock because I have to just keep pace with him. So I'm gonna have to kill that Ragavan. He doesn't play a turn 2 threat, and now I'm gonna jam a turn 3 threat. Remember last game I was hesitant to throw threats out. I wanted to keep Stubby D up, but this game I've got an extra threat in hand, and I've got 3 creatures, and I'm also on the draw, so I can't really afford to be as reactive. Now on the draw I have to be a little more proactive to keep pace with him. So I'm going to just jam a Kavu with the idea, yeah, he probably has a removal spell for it, but that's okay because I have another Kavu and Scion in hand. So he fetches. Tribal Flames me. Okay, I'm going to play Kavu, and right here I'm just holding up either Bolt or like bluffing that I have Stubby D. Okay, he plays his own Kavu, and then his own Scion. So I actually punted there. I accidentally clicked through. I obviously would have fetched Triome here to get Domain. So that kind of hurt me a little bit, but now I just fetched a Triome. So I play a Scion, so now I have Kavu. Yeah, I have, we have the mirror kind of board state here. So I'm swinging, but I do have 1 mana open, so I'm guessing he's cognizant that I could have Leyline Binding. So let's say if he blocks with Kavu and tries to trade with my Kavu, then I can just fetch a Temple Garden, and then I can bind his Scion, and then that's like a blowout, because basically his Kavu will die, his Scion will die, and I'll still have both my creatures on the board. So I think he just lets this damage through. I like my hand, so I'm just going to exile something from the graveyard. And then I'm going to end up now binding Kavu anyway. And the reason I did it now is because I didn't want him to have Stubby D up and be able to save his Kavu. So now I'm in a decent position. Okay, and he's going to Dramokas my Scion and grab Gigantha. So obviously, if you notice, if I had played the last turn better where I had fetched the Triumph at the end of the turn like I was supposed to, then I could have had Lightning Bolt up there. So when he did that move with killing my Scion with Dramoka's command, then I could have just bolted his Scion to kill it. But it ended up that I drew a Leyline Binding, so I just binding it, and then I swing for 5. I don't actually even need to swing here. He's tapped out, but I've got 8 damage in hand of burn. And then that was a win. So I highlighted this match because After this, I actually found out that my opponent is on the Zoo Discord, and I noticed from his list that this is actually a true mirror. His sideboard might be a little different, but his mana base is even the same. I've played a lot of Zoo mirrors, which use different mana bases that I don't think are as ideal, or sometimes they're using like slightly different lists. So I wanted to highlight this one because I think the build we're on right now, which I think is also what my opponent is on, is like the most efficient, strongest build. And I think that my opponent also knew how to play the deck decently well. It's a hard matchup to navigate because you've got to be cognizant of your life total and you've got to know when to be aggressive versus when to wait to play your threats out and things like that. And a lot of that's going to be dictated by your hand and then also what the opponent is doing. So if you found this video useful, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment if you think I could have played anything better, if you have any questions about this sort of thing. And I'll hopefully be uploading some more league content in the next few days. Thanks for watching.